I was talking to this guy who is newly sober, you know, and I don't know, like I was just having conversation with him today. We were talking about some of this, like the sleep, right? Oh man, like going like in that phase of like you finished the withdrawals, but like your body, your mind is still adjusting to this life that's not consumed by alcohol, right? Like your mental state is still adjusting, I guess. And every time I talk with this guy, um, he's doing all the right things, right? But every time I talk with him, for me, I always get taken back to my first days sober. And there is a lot of shame that was involved in that. There was a lot of hurt and shame and self self loathing, I guess, is the right word for that. Like the right term to use for how I was feeling in that time period. I mean, I remember my parents gave me a ride to the detox intake place. Basically, they had given me the choice, like it's either you go to rehab or we're kicking you out. They didn't know what to do. God bless them. They did the best they could do. And I remember just like getting dropped off. They dropped me off at this building, and then there was a woman in a van who came to pick me up and, rode with her in the van to the residential house. I just remember seeing my mom crying, you know, and she wrote me a letter. I have it in my journal. I still have it in my journal. Um, and I journaled through those days, but like reading back on my journal entries, I could tell that I was just so out of it, dude. Like I just was not there. Um, but those feelings come back to me every time that I do a panel or every time that I talk about like what it was like for me first getting sober. Those first few days, all that hurt, all that shame that got me to that low point in my life. Um it certainly was the lowest point in my life. The only way I could go from there was up. And maybe it was my personal rock bottom, and I know I could go lower. I know that if I pick up that first drink, I'm going to pick up the shovel and start digging where I left off, right? I just say that all to say that like there was a lot of self-forgiveness and a lot of shame that I had to let go in that like first month of getting sober. Um, I remember I had a court date like 15 or maybe 20 days into my residential treatment. It was like I checked in. No, it was like 15 days. It was probably 15 days. I checked in on the 17th. My court date was on October 2nd. So, yeah, around that time. 15 days I think exactly actually. But anyway, I'm getting off track. I My parents insisted on taking me to the court date because it was a few cities away. So, wake up early that morning and go down to the same building they dropped me off at, and I see them again. And I remember just like riding in the back of the car with them. Like, it was a weird feeling. My mom and dad are driving, and I didn't really have much to say, because like I was still kind of processing all those things. But like, I just remember how happy they were to see me sober. I was only like I couldn't have been more than 20 days sober. Like no way. It was like definitely like 15 days or like 2 weeks or something like that days sober. But they were already like you look a lot better, you look a lot more clear-minded, you look a lot more healthy. And even even though we were going to court, it was a it was a minor thing, but it was a situation I should not have placed myself in, right? It wasn't like sitting in front of a judge court. It was like go up to the clerk and show that you showed up court. which it's court nonetheless, and it's just not a situation that I would find myself in now. But anyway, they were still happy to see me, you know, and for me, like I was still super selfish in those times and super just like I don't want to talk, I don't want to da 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 da, you know. And anyway, I get out of the residential treatment, and like some of that shame has kind of left me. Some of that shame, like I've kind of dealt with and processed when I was in residential, but like I still remember getting my phone back, and like I have my phone now, you know, and I want to text and call my parents and let them know where I'm at and just check in with them. And I remember seeing the messages that my dad had texted me, you know, in the final days of my drinking, the messages my mom had texted me in the final days of my drinking. And it was just all bad. You know, it was just things like, where are you? What's going on? Are you coming home tonight? You know, me just shooting out empty apologies to my father. Sorry, I came home drunk again. Sorry, you know, for this and that and that. And not even talking to my mom, like not even responding to my mom, or if I was, like it was just some like really terrible, like, just like, yeah, I'm on it or whatever. You know what I mean? Just not giving her the time of day. And like I remember just seeing those messages and just being like, dang, dude, like how am I going to process this? Like, how am I going to move on from this? Like, how can I ever recover from this? Right? Like, that was what was going through my mind. It was like, and I remember calling them that first night, and it was just like, it was just so awkward for me. It's like I'm talking to them, and like, I know that this is a situation that none of us would have wanted. Right? I know that, like, it's just like, but they still showed me love. They still showed me compassion, and after that, like after I was able to go and sign out and go places, like every weekend I would spend at home with them, and or I would spend every weekend day, you know, like I'd have to go back in the evening. But then I got like an overnight pass to spend Thanksgiving weekend with them, and that was a great time. And you know, just over time slowly, like those things kind of went away. I still have amends to make to them. I haven't reached that step yet, you know, but I kind of view like these as like an informal amends, you know, every time that I could show up and be sober, there's a fly that's buzzing around. That's what's taking my attention. But every time I could show up and be sober and just show up and be present, uh, I view that as like a little like informal amends that I'm making, you know, just a process, right? And you know, like there were other things that were not interpersonal that I had shame for, just my own actions, my own doings, things that like I don't know if many other people know if I hadn't shared them, and I have shared them with some people. Um, that I've kind of processed and dealt through, and now when I think back to those times, it's just more of like a thank God that that I'm better now feeling, you know. I guess I just share some of these thoughts to just say like things get better. You know, things will get better for you. If you keep on doing the right thing, if you keep on showing up, I think mostly for yourself. You know, that's who you have to show up for. Um, you know, I had motivations for getting sober, right? I wanted to rebuild the relationship with my family. I wanted to live a fulfilling life. I wanted to, you know, I had things that I was running toward, right? I had things I was running toward, and I had things I was running away from. Uh, the pain and hurt that comes with drinking for me, right? Just the utter destruction that alcohol causes in my life, right? So, like, those are things I'm running away from. Things I'm running toward are rebuilding of family relationships, right? Rebuilding of my life, like rebuilding or building new friendships that are healthy and meaningful and like we have an actual connection, right? Like these are things that I'm working to actively build and I'm running toward, and then the alcohol and everything associated with it is things that I'm running away from. And like I found for me, I had to find like some sort of balance of the two. You know, if I'm just running away from the alcohol and not looking to do anything in my sobriety, like it just was not it just was not a productive thing for me, you know. And I found that for me, like dealing with the shame, dealing with all these emotions that I was dealing with my first 30 days, um, and onward too, you know, and even still now, like I'm not saying that to try to be any sort of way, but like I had to just balance it out, you know, like look in the rear view mirror, right, and see the pain and destruction that's caused, but like focus on what's ahead, you know, focus on what's ahead. And I found when I started focusing on what's ahead, uh like the obsession of drink kind of was lifted a little bit, you know, and it just became a little easier for me to like do things that normal people do and have interactions that normal people have and do things that used to once baffle me and stay sober. So that's the message I got for y'all today. Thank you so much.